Welcome to episode 65 of Fluffy Fibres, the French podcast in English on sewing, knitting and occasionally spinning a handmade wardrobe from head to toe. My name is Isabelle and you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Fluffy Fibres. You can also find a group on Ravelry for the podcast at Fluffy Fibres Podcast, and you will find also show notes for all the episodes at fluffyfibres.com. So welcome and thank you so much for joining me today on this day of early October 2018. I know it's been a while, it's been a good long while, which is, life happens and there is only just so much I can do in every single day and every single week and every single month, and it just turned out that I just wasn't at all able to record earlier. And but today I really needed a break, and so I'm dressed really casually in my cotton cocoa dress by Tilly and the Buttons, which really is secret pajamas. And I just decided to take a break, have a lovely cup of a 3 cinnamon tea by Puka, which is my go-to autumn beverage, which I really like. It's quite energizing and fresh and very warming, and I decided to finally film one episode of the podcast. So because it's been so long, last time I talked with you was before we left on holidays, so it was I think late July. And because of that, I do have quite a lot of things to share. So I decided to do my usual, what I'd usually do in those cases, which is to split my content into 2 episodes. So this current episode is going to be about my knitting, and the next episode, episode 66, is going to be about what I've been sewing over the summer and in this early autumn, because yes, finally autumn is here. We have had a really hot and really long summer here, as I think in many places in the Northern Hemisphere, but this weekend we could finally feel the weather turning, the wind has been blowing, and I'm wearing 3/4 sleeves, which feels wonderfully cozy, and I think it's the first time I'm wearing longer sleeves in this autumn, really. So especially during the day. So that's quite a little bit of an event in itself, because of course, and that's it's really become a topos on Instagram, a cliche, but of course, all every knitters, and I think many makers in general, we just relish the arrival of the cooler season, because it means that we get to wear our lovely hand knits, but also that we just get to spend more time indoors, with our making. And of course, I think many of us, when you make, you always, I feel a lot of us really are introverts, and at any rate, we love spending time, inside, just having fun with all our lovely making. So I feel a lot of us are working the same way in this respect. So I know a lot of you, all of you I guess in the Northern Hemisphere, are all excited about autumn, although I know in Canada you've already been having some snow, so maybe you're not so excited anymore, I don't know. But summer really lasted here for so very long, and even last week we were wearing summer dresses, and it was like 27 degrees in the afternoon, which is really hot for early October. But anyway, yes. So today's episode is going to include an event, and then I'm just going to focus, since I've already mentioned my handmade wardrobe and my cup of tea quite seamlessly this time, I'm just going to go through what I've finished in terms of hand knitting, and then my current projects, and then my future plans, because of course we all are very excited to be planning our winter wardrobe. And I know in saying this, I'm forgetting all about my wonderful friends from the Southern Hemisphere, and I know they are there are quite a number of you who watch and who are friends, and so no, I'm not forgetting you. But yeah, it is true, we're really excited about the turn of the season, as I'm sure you're excited about spring and all the beautiful flowers as well. But yeah, so without further ado, I just wanted to mention that I'm about to set up a giveaway on Instagram, on my Fluffy Fibres Instagram account, for some lovely things that I mentioned in the past on the podcast. So first of all, this amazing skein of sock yarn by Lovebird Yarns, which she very generously sent me. And the colourway is Isabel, because she used all my favourite colours to create this colourway. It is a self-striping yarn, which is absolutely stunning and incredibly soft. I hadn't been knitting with merino for quite a while, and I'd just forgotten how incredibly soft it was. So this is 80/20 merino nylon. You have 408 yards or 373 meters. And it is self-striping with stripes of grey, pink, dusky pink, blue and purple. And I'll show you in a minute how the yarn knits up actually. But yeah, this is a very beautiful yarn made in Australia. Talking of my friends in the Southern Hemisphere, it's made in Adelaide in Australia, South Australia. And you also get this beautiful, very cute little bird stitch marker, or rather progress keeper. Yeah, it's a really beautiful skein. Very generous gift for a giveaway for the podcast by Julianne, who is the wonderful dyer behind Lovebird Lane Yarns. And to go with this, I also have this beautiful project bag by Marie-Lisa, who is in Greece, and her shop name is Spool Stories. And she is on Etsy as Spool Stories. She has a website called spoolstories.com as well. She is a maker from Greece, and she creates these beautiful project bags with some cork fabric for the bottom, which is really quite fun and very sturdy as well. So it's natural cork, it's very natural fabric. The inside is lined with polka dots, and you get a little lavender sachet as well, which matches really well. So I thought those two actually went really well together. So I decided to offer them as a pair for a grand prize. And to go with them as well, I am included this beautiful card by Maria of the Ninja Chickens creations and podcast. And I'm sure you all know Maria. She dyes naturally and she does eco printing, such as on these beautiful card. And I was lucky enough to meet Maria in Edinburgh when I went at EYF in March, and she very generously gave me a few cards and her beautiful pen with her little hen as well, her chicken. And so yeah, I decided to include this in the giveaway. You can see her details here. In case you don't know her, she's incredibly inspiring and talented, and she also creates, designs knitting patterns on Ravelry, which are really beautiful as well. And I especially adore her sock blanks. She eco-dyes sock blanks by printing, leaves and flowers and then like this, and I think this is just such a beautiful card, so I'm very happy to be including it. I will of course be including some of the little things such as my own badge, and I'll be adding a little selection of teas, organic teas that from my favourites. So it's going to be a lovely cozy package that one of you will be winning. So this will be happening on my Instagram account. I think the giveaway will be valid for I think a week, so hopefully you'll have time to watch this and still apply if you don't follow me on Instagram already, and if you've missed it. So yes, and just before I move on to my making, talking of EYF, I did want to mention this because the class previews is up for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival for 2019, and it is super tempting and enticing. There are, I think, 50 classes this year, which is amazing. There are so many amazing classes. And so I've thought long and hard about, I've been thinking of all this for months and months really, whether I would come back in 2019 or not. Go back to Edinburgh, and I'm not going to be going back this year, well, next year, because, for a variety of reasons really. One of them being actually my carbon imprint as well, because I travelled by plane twice this year, which for me is a lot in terms of the carbon imprint I want to have, so I travelled once to Edinburgh, and then I travelled for work as well at the end of the summer. And so I'm trying to, it's one of the reasons, but yeah, I'm very conscious about that. And getting by train from Montpellier, where I live, which is in southern France, to Edinburgh is just completely impossible. But beyond that, it's really hard for me to get away from work, and it's going to be even harder this year. And there are other reasons as well, which doesn't make this a wise choice for me at the moment. With my, I just really need to take it easy, basically. But and which is really hard because I work a very full work, and I have 2 children, so it's really hard for me to do that. So I need at least to not overexert myself when I can help it. So yes, of course it's a very hard decision to make, because it was so amazing to meet so many friends in person, and it was such a magical event. But I definitely want to get back in 2020. So that does seem like the good choice for me right now. So moving on now to actually my, some knitting content. So I have 4 finished knits. One of them I can't really show you actually, because I did a test knit and the pattern isn't out yet. So I can't really share the design. The designer wants it to remain secret until it comes out, and it will be coming out in I think 2 weeks actually. I'm just going to show you a very little bit of the sleeve, just so you see how beautiful this yarn is. Even though it's super hard to photograph because it's peacock blue. It's Pontus by Everyday. By the Uncommon thread. It's the Uncommon Everyday base, which was a gift, an incredibly generous gift from a friend, Marianne, a French friend, and it was super special to knit this. It was quite a work of love, because it's a fringing weight long-sleeved sweater with loads of cables and a lot of attention to detail. It was really quite intricate, so it did occupy. It was definitely my most important work in terms of knitting time and dedication this summer. But I'm really happy with the finished result. It blocked beautifully. I can't wait to show it to you. And I really love this beautiful peacock blue. So it's going to be a lovely addition to my wardrobe actually. I hope you're not too disappointed because I'm speaking about it without being able to share you, but just to make up for it, I do have a few other finished objects for you. So firstly, I knit a Cinquilio sweater. I don't think I'd started last time we chatted, no, because I started this on holiday actually. It was my holiday knit, my holiday cast on really, to celebrate being on holidays in August. And so this is the Cinquilio pullover, which was published in issue 1 of the Bellota Knits magazine, which is a Spanish magazine. And the pattern was translated and put together as a kit by Anna, who runs the Lana et Tricot shop and web shop in Grenoble at the feet of the Alps. And so because she is Spanish, she translated it as part of the collaboration with Bellota Knits. And so I got my yarn from her as well. The yarn is the wonderful Mungo by Rosa Pomar. and it's absolutely beautiful. It's a blend of 50% wool, 50% cotton, which is all recycled from factories in Spain and Portugal. So you know, it's very, very eco-friendly. It's really soft. However, to me it feels more cottony than woolly somehow. Maybe because the wool is recycled, but it feels definitely more like transitional weather pullover than a winter pullover. But yeah, it's really soft, and I was told it softens up a lot with wear as well. So you may be able to see on the screen that there is a subtle striping going on, which is because I was warned when started, because we did a knit along for this on Lene Tricot's Ravelry group, and actually Anna knit hers in this colour as well. And she mentioned in her podcast that there was a difference. I mean, it is the same dye lot, but there was a definite difference in shades from, you know, between some of the balls of the blue. And I think it's just for the blue dye. I think the other colours don't have this problem. And so I alternated. I definitely had one of the blues that was more saturated than the others. So I alternated this one with the others. And I really like the effect, actually, this very subtle striping. I really like it. Like a very subtle, like Breton top effect, if you want. I just love it. And so what I really love, of course, about this is the leaf detail, which hopefully you can see well. I really, really love it. And I knit this when we were in holidays in the Cévennes, which is the mountains north of Montpellier, and which is a very wild place, actually. So I thought this was perfectly apt for this rugged landscape with loads of pine trees, and yeah, so I felt this was just perfect, the perfect project for these holidays. This, you know, rustic yarn and rather rustic vegetal design, floral design, so I really loved it. I loved knitting it. It is bottom up. It knits up rather quickly because this is a worsted weight yarn, and it's really fun to make, actually. It's very simple in terms of the shape. Basically you knit a tube, there's no shaping, so you knit a tube up to the armholes, then you separate for the front and the back, and you knit up. You have this lovely detail of the ribbing at the top, which is really lovely. So yeah, it's a very, very simple construction, but I think it really works well. It's quite effective. So I have to say, though, I'm super sensitive. I have a very, very sensitive skin, and this is meant to be worn, if not next to skin, then just with a tank top underneath. And it is a little bit dry to the touch, just a little bit rough to the touch, but you know, especially here on my chest, which is super, super sensitive. But Anna, who runs the Lene Tricot website and shop in Grenoble, she actually told me that it softens up considerably with wear and washing, because she has another pullover in this yarn which has softened up considerably. So I just need to wear it and wash it, and it's still not cool enough here to wear this, but hopefully in just a few weeks, maybe at the end of the week. You know, it's just a matter of the weather turning here. It's a bit either or. It really have an on switch or an off switch here in terms of the heat and the seasons. So yeah, you may be in a summer dress one day and then shivering and suddenly needing your hand knit socks the next week, really. So yes, I'm sure I will be wearing it really soon. So yeah, and the yarn I really do recommend nonetheless. I mean, and I'm really super sensitive when it comes to yarn. But yeah, I can feel already it's going to soften up a lot with wear. So yes, that's my second finished knit. After that, I have a tiny little bit of hand knitting to show you, which is this cute little mug rug. which I knit to review the yarn by Blacker Yarns, their new Tour yarn. I was very fortunate to be among the yarn reviewers for Blacker Yarn's birthday yarn this year, which is their Tour range, which is an Aran weight yarn, and it is a blend of wool from various British sheep and also some alpacas, I think. So there's Romney Cross, Merino Cross, and then North Ronaldsay, just a little bit of Shetland, and then 8% British alpaca. So you have this is a 2-ply, so which is really very squishy, and you see the shade range is very cohesive because the undyed shade is this grey oatmeal shade. So you have this base that I think unifies all the shades really beautifully. And each colourway is named after a tor, which is a hill, which, you know, one of the, so it's these tors are in Devon and Cornwall, I think. So yes, it's a really beautiful yarn, very bouncy, but really cozy. Overall, super warm, I think. And so I wanted to see how it knit up as lace. So this is what I did, and so it's a little coaster that I love using on my desk. Very cozy. I used a little pattern actually for this, which is on Instagram, Ravelry, but I did alter it a little because I wanted a much shorter one than the one that was in the pattern. I wonder if it wasn't a washcloth actually initially, the pattern. So you can find all the details on my Ravelry page. I tend to keep very detailed Ravelry notes on my project pages on Ravelry. So there is one for this, with the changes I did as well, the number of stitches I cast on and so on and so forth. I also received I received mini skeins of this. I think I received 16 grams of this one and of the other one, and the other one I received was the Lan Lavery, which is the beautiful dusky rose, and I really love this one. I love this one as well, but I already have a lot of this shade actually in my stash, and it was a very similar shade from this, just maybe a little bit bluer, but a very kind, you know, similar kind of shade. So I didn't want to add yet some more, you know, blue-green to my stash. But instead I decided to actually treat myself to a skein of the Lan Lavery shade, which I've already caked up because I want to use it rather soon. And this, so this is 100 grams, and I hope you can see how deliciously plump and cozy it is, and it feels really warm. I can only imagine how incredibly warm a sweater out of this yarn must be. And so Katie, who is one of the makers at Blacker Yarns, took a very important part in the making of this yarn, the selection of the fleeces and the colours. She really is the soul behind the yarn, but also behind the patterns that they developed for the yarn. So they developed an entire collection of patterns for Aran weight, and for, you know, in particular for this yarn, and especially they have a sweater, a beautiful colourwork sweater out of this, and I can only imagine how incredibly warm it must be in this yarn. So if you live in Northern Europe or in Northern America and you have a very cold winter and you love hiking, I think this would make the perfect hiking sweater. I think it would be a bit warm for here, honestly, you know, but and personally when I hike I tend to run really hot, but yeah, I think it must make such an incredible sweater, really. And actually I had a look just before I came to record, and there is some of this left on the Blacker website actually. Maybe even all of the shades are still available, but I definitely could see some, you know, some of this yarn still available on the website. So if you were undecided but are very tempted, which I can understand, maybe you can still grab some whilst there is still some available. But this is just a limited edition, so they won't be remaking it. It's just their birthday edition. So once it's gone, it's gone. So yeah, so I'm going to make a hat with this to go with my, I have a purple coat that I made, well, 10 years ago actually, in a very, very dark, dusky purple, and I have a shawl already in that kind of dusky pink that looks really, really nice with this coat. And so I thought it would be really nice to have a matching hat for this, to have a whole outfit for outerwear in these purple and dusky pink shades. So yeah, so this is my little tour sample, and yeah, I initially I wanted to make mitts, finger mitts out of the two shades by knitting them together. But I actually, so I started these whilst I was away for work, but I on the plane to the event. But actually, I ripped it out because the two colours weren't really working well. I mean, I think in a colourwork sweater with other shades they work beautifully, but just the difference between the two was a little too stark for my taste in mitts, in fingerless mitts. So I decided to use them separately. So yeah. So my last finished knit is the one you've been seeing since the beginning of the podcast, and it is my Jane top, which I just finished actually, and I think it's one of the things that inspired me to get podcasting. I really wanted to share it. So I actually took pictures yesterday. I didn't have much light left. It was Sunday evening, and yeah, it was they were the only 5 minutes I managed to grab from the whole day to my own, to myself on my own, to be on my own to take pictures. So they're a bit grainy, but hopefully by the time this goes live you will already have seen them on Instagram. But yeah, so this is the Jane top by Céline of Mademoiselle Citronille, and it is made out of a beautiful, beautiful yarn, which I shared on the podcast, I think last time I recorded. So it is the Antigone Organic Linen by Dererum Natura. It's a DK weight, made in France. The linen is from Europe as well. Actually, it's from France as well. And this particular shade is Dahlia. And it's a beautiful, very hard to photograph as well. All these jewel tones I feel the cameras have a hard time capturing, but it's a very beautiful burgundy purple, which I think is perfectly apt for this time of year, especially in a wine producing region, because the Languedoc is a very produces a lot of wine, so I felt it was perfect for transitional weather. And this is a perfect top for right now, so I'm so glad I finished it right in time for the turn of the season. I wore it yesterday actually, and it was perfect, absolutely perfect. Yes, it's a very loose fitting top, which is supposed to be a crop top, but mine isn't that cropped. Basically I did the same thing as with my Tegna. I didn't do the crop version, I just lengthened it so that it would be more versatile over trousers, jeans, and and dresses and skirts as well. I can really see myself wearing a tank top underneath as well, for a little bit of extra warmth. But I really, really like it. And so the pattern is both in French and English. Mademoiselle Citronille is based in Grenoble as well, actually, I think, or at least this part of France. And this is a beautiful design. It's really very well written. It was thoroughly test knit, and I really, really liked it because the construction is not that usual for it is a top-down sweater, top rather, but the construction is quite, I don't think I'd ever knit something like that, but it's perfectly described. You have quite a number of short rows as well for all this shaping, and yeah, I really, really like it. So yeah, so you do have, you do have to pay a lot of attention at first to the construction, and then you have a lot of stocking it in the round, but then you have your reward at the end with the lace. And consequently the lace knits up so fast because it's just so fun to do. It's such a beautiful motif with this little cross at the center, which is really a little cable. Hopefully you can see that well. But it's really, really lovely. Yeah. And of course it's wonderfully drapey because it's linen. I knit it with 3.5mm needles, I think, if I recall correctly. But yeah, and I did knit mine a bit looser fitting than I should have for my size. I knit the second size up, and I think I was really between the first size and the second size, but I really like it that way. Yeah, and so again I knit my body a bit longer. You do have a longer version and a cropped version, but yeah, I went with the longer version basically. So yeah, and yeah, the yarn is really beautiful. All of the shades in the range are so gorgeous. I really had a hard time choosing actually when this yarn came out, and my friend Lise knit a pale blue version, which is super pretty as well. Coucou Lise! She knit Aperitif Hour by, I think, Joseph Queen, which turned out so pretty as well in this yarn. And there is a beautiful, very light coral pink, like a shell pink, which is so pretty as well. I know one of my friends as well is knitting it. Is knitting a tegna. Maybe she's finished her tegna out of it. So yeah, it's a beautiful yarn, very ethical in every respect, because they really have this wonderful ethics of also treating their employees well, the makers well, and so it's, their motto is fabriqué en France, dans le respect de la terre et des hommes. So made in France, respecting the earth and people. So it's yeah, absolutely. You know how much I love this company, and I was so excited to see that that Solène had come out with a summer yarn. So yeah, it's an amazing yarn, amazing company, and honestly, all the shades are just scrumptious. So yeah, it really feels like silk. It looks like silk and feels like silk actually. So I'm so happy with this knit. I was so excited to be knitting this this summer. So that is it for all my finished works, and that's quite a lot. I think I've been talking for quite a while already. I need to sip a little bit on that tea. And now I'll move on to my whips, which of course will be a lot shorter, because if you know me, you know I don't typically have a lot of whips. I have 2 whips at the most, and that's the case at the moment. I have a garment type of knit and a sock, a sock project for my commute and that kind of thing. So I'll start with the socks actually, because I actually have one of them that is finished, which is super exciting. So this is where you can see how this sterling yarn knits up. So there you go. So this is the Isabelle colorway by Julianne of Lovebird Lane Yarns. And so I did add a contrasting heel, but you can see the beautiful striping from blue, purple, grey, and pink. So it's quite incredible to be knitting out of all of your favorite shades, knowing this has actually been designed for after your favorite shades, because every single stripe is such a delight to knit on, And I actually knit this entire sock whilst travelling for work, so I had so many delays with my planes, and so the silver lining is that it allowed me to knit almost all of this sock during my trip without knitting at all whilst I was at work during those very few days. So this was all travel knitting really. I'm not completely convinced about this. So this is a mini from the Knitting Goddess. Most of my minis, solid or semi-solid minis are from the Knitting Goddess. I absolutely love her minis. This one is perfect. I think it really matches the blue really well. But this one I'm not completely sure about, so I'll see. I need to think a little about that. As you can see, I definitely am knitting these in record time for me, because I tend to be a very slow sock knitter, because I love having socks and I find they're really fun to knit, but I always want garments more. So I tend to have, my sock whips tend to last for a long time, but not this one though, because I'm already, so I cast this on 2 weeks ago I think, and this is just what I knit on the train to and from work. Well, not to work, I work on the train to work, but yeah, anyway, during my commute. But yeah, so I've already knit the cuff, and I've started the flap, the heel flap. I'm almost done actually through the heel flap. Yeah, so I just, yeah, it's just when you learn, you know, it's true what everyone says about self-striping yarn. It's so potato chippy, and especially when you are so in love with the shades. So in terms of the pattern I'm using my typical vanilla sock pattern, which is the How I Make My Socks by Susan B. Anderson, that she shared on her blog years and years ago. Is the first time I knit a pair of socks. That's the tutorial I followed. And for the heel, I use the Eye of Partridge heel with garter stitch edging, which is I think exactly the heel that is explained in the Hermione's Everyday Socks. So I use for the whole sock, I use Susan B. Anderson's generous free pattern recipe on her blog, and then for the heel I use the heel from Hermione's Everyday Socks. So it is still slipped stitches, but they are alternated, so it's not lines of slipped stitches, and I just think it's so pretty. So yeah, very, very excited about these, really. I love them so much. So yes, this definitely gives you a good idea of how this will be knitting up. So my next whip I actually cast on yesterday, because I finished this last week actually. And so I just cast on for something new yesterday morning whilst playing with my children. And for this I'm using a very new bag, which is by Les Chevaux Solidaires, whom I've mentioned this charity already in on the podcast. The Aurélie, who runs this, is doing a lot of various organising a lot of various events to fund research for fibrous dysplasia, and one of the ways in which she is finding funds is by pop-up shops on her website. And so she has wonderful artists contribute, and so this is a drawing which is so pretty by a very well-known French artist who is Anouk Ferry. She has this very soft, very tender kind of aesthetics, and so she designed this beautiful, this couple of a little girl in her mother's arms, and of course her mother is giving her a really warmy cuddle because she's wearing a cozy hand knit. And so I decided to choose this bag. So it's printed on organic cotton, which is wonderful, and it's a really large size. Actually, for my sock project, I'm using another one of their bags that I got at a previous pop-up shop, so update if you want. So this one I got in the spring, late summer maybe, late spring, and it's another beautiful painting that was done for Les Chevaux Solidaires. So this is a perfect size for sock knitting, and actually it matches the yarn quite well. Actually, it's quite a delight to be using it, and it's also organic cotton. And this is much larger. It's a sweater-sized or small sweater-sized project bag. Well, I think it's definitely large enough even for my garments actually. And so I am knitting a cardigan for my son, which is why I use this bag. And I'm actually knitting him a red cardigan, so it seemed really apt. So I am knitting him, so obviously I've only just started. So this is actually the hood. It's a hooded cardi with some texture, with an alternation of garters, not garter, reverse stockinette and stockinette stitch. And it is this Little Spring Hoodie by Suvi Simola. And she is Suvi Knits on Instagram. She's she's an Estonian designer who lives in Finland. And she has several really gorgeous designs actually. And so, yes, it's a hooded cardigan, and I just loved the texture, and I really wanted a hooded cardigan for my son. And I had some yarn already in my stash specifically for this, so it's for a DK cardigan, and I had this in my stash. I had this in my stash for quite a while. So this is actually from northern France. I am originally from northern France, and northern France is, used to be one of the major parts of France for textile making. Actually, there are other, Lyon as well in southern France, but yeah, northern France was super active in textile making, and you still have some factories actually of yarn over there, and also I think a lot of them have actually closed, but there is some surplus yarn still available, and so there is a shop in Lille which is a very crowded like a grotto of a shop really, with loads and loads of these yarns, which are sold for a very reasonable price, and it's a very good quality. So this is called cash wool, and it's 100% lamb's wool, made in France. It is machine washable, but yeah, I've had this yarn in my stash for a long time, and it's the perfect shade for my son because he loves red, and it actually looks amazing on him. So I know he's going to love this so much. So yeah, so I have 5 balls of this, which should be plenty. I am, however, doing a slight alteration to the design, because you're supposed to once you've knit the cardigan, you're supposed to knit an I-cord edging which will also act as a button band. But several people who made the cardigan said in their project notes that it didn't stay open quite well. It tended to roll in, and also I could see it actually in the pictures of projects. So I decided to cast on 8 extra stitches, and I'm knitting 4 extra stitches at either end of seat stitch. And so once I reach the collar part and the body part, I'm going to add some to do some yarn overs to add some buttonholes all along the button band. So yes, I think I also like the idea that once I'm done, I won't have any stitches to pick up, and yeah, that's also always quite a nice prospect really. So yeah, I'm using my Chagu. I always use Chagu needles actually. I never mention it because it's really the only needles I use, but this time I'm using some of the very few bamboo needles that I have from them. I have a set of their steel ones, but this is their bamboo because they're smaller and I really love them. I have just 2 of them. I should try and get more, but they're quite pricey, and I do have the other ones. So, but yeah, these are 4.5mm needles, size 7, and yeah, I'm actually knitting at my gauge is just a little bit bigger, so I did some math to see what size I should be knitting to to match my son's measurements. So I'm actually knitting a size smaller in terms of the width. So yeah, and actually that reminds me, I did want to mention the needles I was using for my socks, because I typically use, I always use DPNs for sock knitting. When I'm travelling by plane, I use the Knit Picks bamboo needles, so I'm sure I won't have any problems travelling. But as soon as I'm home, I switch to metal needles because I think they're just, well, first of all, there is less risk of breaking them, and you know, with little ones around it can easily happen, but also I just think I knit quicker with these sleek needles. And I used to use the higher sharps, and I remarked on a previous episode that I found they were super sharp, and that was the one thing I didn't like about them, because I felt of all the DPNs I had, they were the sleekest and so the fastest to knit with, but I just felt they were so sharp, and it's, again, with little children around, I'm not really comfortable knitting with them. You know, I think that they can be a bit dangerous, really. And so one of you very kindly suggested I tried the higher regular needles. I didn't even know they had DPNs that weren't called sharps. And so thank you so much, because that's exactly what I did. I found these higher that weren't sharps, and so the ends are just a little bit blunter. They're still quite nice and pointy. You can definitely knit some lace or details with this, but they're perfect. I finally found my holy grail of DPNs with these. So thank you so much for making this suggestion. They are absolutely perfect for me. And I typically knit my needles on 2.5mm needles, and I cast on 56 stitches for me, which is perfect for my foot. So yes, that is it, friends, for all of my knitting, my works in progress. But I would like to talk a little about my future plans, because as I was saying, autumn is upon us and we all have plans, and I know I love watching other people's podcasts and seeing all their plans, and it's so inspiring to all, you know, as Maria of the Stitch in Sweden podcast would say, you know, the knitting we are doing in our dreams, really. So I do have quite a number of plans, actually. First of all, with my beautiful tall yarn, I want to make a Snapdragon tam by Isolde Teague. I made that tam 7 years ago. I was pregnant with my daughter, and she's 6.5, so it must be 7 years ago. And I made it as a gift for my sister, and I really loved it. So I've been thinking of making it again. However, I can't for the life of me find my, so it's out of the Whimsical Little Knits 2 booklet, and I have the first one here, and for the life of me I cannot find my second one. Maybe I lent it to someone and I can't recall who, but in any case I just can't find it anymore after all this time, after moving and so on and so forth. So I just ordered a second-hand copy, so I'm just waiting for it to arrive, and then I'll be knitting my Snapdragon tam out of this. It's a beautiful beret style hat with cables. It's really lovely. I think it was my first time knitting cables, because 7 years ago was the first year I was knitting, actually, and I think I was completely in awe of how ingenious cables were. So yes, I want to knit that. I also would love to knit a Whippet cardi by Ankerstrich. I have the yarn for it already caked up. Let me show it to you, actually. So I recently reorganized all of my yarn stash and put it together by colour. I mean, by, you know, all my fingering weight together, but then ordered by colour. So it's really handy, because this is my case of purple and just a little bit of teal yarn. So yes, I have this beautiful Merlot tweed yarn from the Wool Barn, which is waiting to be knit up, and I'm thinking of knitting the Whippet cardigan, which is an open front cardi with a lovely texture at the front, my friend Karin knit it, and it's lovely. It's a lovely cardigan, and it's part of my Make 9 project, actually, if you're still wondering. You know, in January I did a list of what I would like to make in 2018, both in terms of sewing and knitting, and so if you're interested, I'm still trying to follow it. Sometimes I've definitely replaced one project with another, with a corresponding one, but I'm very much inspired by this, actually. So yes, this was part of my Make 9 list. So yeah, I would love to make this. And after that, or even before that, actually, I would love to just relax and just enjoy myself and knit for the sheer joy of it, because I tend to be really practical with my knitting and really, you know, make things for my wardrobe or for my children's wardrobe. And I've reached a point, I think, in the year that when I'm so tired and I work so much, and I just want, I think, to go back to a bit of a more laid back behaviour when it comes to my knitting and my making in general, because, you know, it's here to relax myself first and foremost. And so yeah, for instance, I haven't knit a single shawl this year because they're less useful than garments, because I have quite a number of shawls already. I don't need one per se, but I would love to knit a few, because shawls are such a joy to knit. So I do have a beautiful skein from La Fifille that I purchased in Edinburgh, actually, which is a gradient, which I would love to knit a shawl out of. And there was a shawl that came out to go with it by Nadia Crétin-Lechen. It's the Morag shawl, and I think the yarn colourway is called Moira. And I would love to knit this as a sheer, you know, just to enjoy myself, enjoy the shades and just relax. And maybe also knit other shawls, because there are a number of shawls that I have in my pattern collection that I absolutely love, that I would love to knit. I have the colour reflection, which I've wanted to knit for a while, and I have the pattern, the yarn for it already. I have, I would love to knit at least one of Kristin's Villenvine yarns shawls as well, either her Wildesmeer or her half crescent shawl, which is absolutely stunning. Well, both of them are. And again, I'm sure I could find some gorgeous combinations from my stash. And there are a number of shawls by Helen Stewart as well that I have in my stash, that I have in my pattern collection, that I would love to knit as well. So yeah, maybe it's time for me to just kick back in my knitting, relax. I've knit quite a number of garments this year. I've achieved so much this year, generally speaking, you know, in terms of my work, of, I don't know, everything really. I feel tired and I feel like I need a break, and maybe this would help me take a break in a way. I don't know, maybe this will sound really strange, but I tend to give myself these crazy obligations in my mind, you know, and I really need to try and relax myself about all this, really. Before I leave you though, I just wanted to share just a few things that I received in the mail or that were given to me that are really, really lovely. So first of all, I have been absolutely loving Alex Collins's work for ever since she started, really. Ever since, yeah, I think I first got to know about her from her friend, actually, who is Danny Little Bobbins. And she creates these beautiful screen printed bags that she prints herself on organic fabric. And I have been wanting a bag of hers for a long time. And she was recently in an interview on a podcast, which I will share. I'm blanking on the name of the podcast, but it was a really interesting interview where I really got to know more about her process and her views and her how much of her process was inspired by being eco-friendly. And for instance, I hadn't realised before that her bags were organic fabric or fabric that she buys, that is made in the UK. So yeah, that finally decided me. So just at the beginning of the school year, actually to treat myself after a really, really long summer and not much vacation being taken, a lot of work being done, I treated myself finally to one of her bags. And I got her sweater bag, actually, her sweater sized bag, which is this beautiful print, in this beautiful print. So this is the front, and this is the back with her signature, which is so, so classy, I think. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And Alex was kind enough to include a little notebook that she hand printed, and I love notebooks. I really use them a lot. So this is going to be so special. Yeah, I really, really love it. And let me just show you how pretty this is as well. You know, everything about Alex's work, her aesthetics, her pictures, it's all so serene and calm and beautiful. And just so, you know, with such an attention to simple, beautiful details. I absolutely love it. And yeah, so, and this is her little card, which is so precious as well. So yeah, I'm really happy I finally treated myself. As you can see, it's a really, really large bag. So it can hold a very large garment, definitely, you know, a heavier weight garment. Even for Seb, I could, you know, I think I would be using it when I next make Seb, my husband, a jumper. So yeah, and yeah, if you don't know Alex, I do advise I do recommend you take a look at her Instagram. Even just her Instagram page is just so lovely and calming. And she also has a podcast. She started her podcast this year, and it's incredibly inspiring in so many respects. So I really recommend you just give her a look her up if you don't know her already. But I'm sure a lot of you will know her already. Yeah, so finally I did want to mention a few gifts that were given to me. First of all, I was lucky enough to meet fellow maker from the UK during the summer. She was spending her holidays in Montpellier, and we were able to meet for a bit of you know, to have a cup of tea together. And her daughters were there, and my daughter was there, so it was all really, really lovely. And she's Elena, Nelna and Nora on Instagram. And she actually was crocheting on a shawl when we were chatting, and she finished the shawl as we were chatting, and she actually gave me the shawl. So it's a super pretty gradient blue shawl, which of course is perfect for me. And I absolutely love it. And I was so incredibly touched by this. It's so generous to be giving your own work to someone you've just met, really. So thank you so much, Elena. I really, really love it. And it's going to be perfect for this time of year, actually. So thank you. And lastly, I received a very, very kind gift from my friend Tracy, who is Schnuffeltier on Instagram. And she has the Passionate Spinner podcast on YouTube. And we met at Edinburgh, actually, and she told me she had a book by Gudrun Johnston of mother-daughter knits that she wouldn't be needing. And so she actually sent it to me. And it's this beautiful book, which is absolutely gorgeous. And I actually knit the Ambrosia sweater cardigan on the cover for myself 2 years ago when I was pregnant with my son, actually. And it's a gorgeous cardigan, and now I really want to make one for my daughter, but all of the designs in there are so beautiful, and as many of them I can see making for my daughter, and I think she would love them. This Sew-Away cardigan was very, very popular when it came out, and it would be lovely for us to have this matching cardigan. And there is also a cardigan that I can really, really see on my daughter and on myself, actually. It is, hopefully you can see this. It is this beautiful, very, you know, cardigan with a delicate yoke. I really love it. So yeah, that was such a kind gift to receive in the post. So thank you so much, Tracy. Yeah, it's always such a joy to receive this kind of kindness in the mail. So I think that is going to be it for this episode. I feel it's going to be super long to edit and super long to watch for you. I hope you will bear with me since it's been so long since our last podcast. And And yeah, I do hope you're all doing so very well, and that you are at happy times in your lives, and that you are not too busy and trying to find time for yourselves. And yeah, so I will be filming a sewing episode very soon, hopefully. And until then, I do invite you to check out my Instagram page for this beautiful giveaway of the yarn and project bag and the echo printed card by Maria. And yeah, until our next chat with you, please do stay in touch either on Instagram or in the YouTube comments or on Ravelry. But until our next chat with you, do take care, and I hope your making brings you joy. Bye bye!